Hold on. Well, I just clicked you are live. I bet you we're gonna get some comments. And the little eye just came up in the corner. We're live. We're live, my friend. Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad.
Oh,
Uh,
they're just up. We are. I was wondering why it said scheduled before.
it's all right. We're live. We're live here with Beatdown. We're live here with Beatdown. We keep talking about doing these more often, but we're gonna do them. We're gonna do them now. We'll just have a quick chat today, and then hopefully we gather a little bit of interest, and we'll go from there. So I think it's cool that we get together every now and then, and we're live now on Facebook after some technical difficulties, and it's been a good start. It's been a good start to the year. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like it's going to be another good year.
I feel like
And
we've rehearsed and we're probably about to kick this off really strong this time. Like,
oh, yeah, I'm good. You got some good questions today about martial arts on my Facebook page to lead us into some questions, and I really think it's a good idea just first before we get to that, because it's the beginning of the year and everybody's training. I know you said you've had a lot of people coming into the gym. We use a little bit extra radio this year, so we've got some extra people in the gym at the moment. Hopefully competitions have started. We're hoping to keep a little bit of momentum, and that the goal as always has been to help people do something difficult and deal with hardships better by using martial arts as a vehicle for growth. And I think often the best path for competitors is to understand, if you want to be a really great martial artist and competitor, you're going to have to be addicted to growth and getting better and reinventing yourself. Otherwise, especially in the mixed martial arts realm, you're going to just be caught out. And jiu-jitsu is evolving as well. Like, it's such a complicated game that if you aren't really inside that growth mindset and thinking about getting better and doing things differently all the time, you're going to get left behind or just caught out by someone with a really eclectic kind of jiu-jitsu game. So what's your advice to anyone jumping in the gym, whether it be jiu-jitsu or mixed martial arts? What's your advice to them to how they can start off on the right foot?
all right. So basically, adversity is a given. So you need to accept that you're not going to be amazing at everything. You need to accept that for a period of time you are going to suck, not because you don't know how to do it, but because you don't know what you're doing. So the first thing I say to people for jiu-jitsu is give yourself 3 months to understand what the concept of jiu-jitsu is. You need to understand that your objective is to get on top. Your objective is to pass the guard. In 3 months, you're probably not going to understand how to do all of those things, but you got to understand what you're doing. So you need to give yourself time. You need to be willing to make mistakes and willing to lose and willing to learn. And I think the biggest issue that most people have is with adversity is regulating their emotions. Emotional regulation. I talk about this heaps lately. I don't know why, but especially as males who like to be the best at everything, typically, I feel like we struggle with regulating our emotions and accepting that we're not as good as we probably think we are, and just learning something new. So I think just you need to accept that it's going to be rough, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, yeah. There's a few good things there, which again, you've mentioned some of the things that I love about martial arts. One is radical acceptance. You have to accept what's real. We've got to accept adversity. This is exactly what makes us stronger. And emotional regulation is actually part of martial arts as well. You can't let your emotions rule you while you're trying to problem solve something, especially not problem solving a boxing match, a Muay Thai match, jiu-jitsu match, or an MMA match. Getting angry is not a solution to anything, So
Also quitting. You know what I mean? Like when we talk about emotional regulation, I make my guys condition on a Friday night, fighters particularly, not everyone. And there's a period of time in a fight when you get that fatigued that your coaches don't exist. So the only person you have is yourself. You need to be able to regulate your emotions and your feelings, and then you need to be able to convince yourself that, hey, I'm not that tired, like I'm okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, we put our guys through a conditioning session that, whilst I'm sure there's physical adaptations, the purpose of it is not physical adaptations. It's to make you want to quit mentally, and it's like 7 minutes long. It's to make you want to quit mentally because it just sucks a little bit, and your legs feel like concrete. And when it would be easier not to do it, you need to be able to convince yourself that you can do it, because that it's at that point that you just can't hear your corner yelling,
yeah,
"Oi, breathe," move your head. All of a sudden, you get punched in the face and your head's not moving. It's usually because they just shut off, so they can't regulate what's going on. So even just as little as that, that's not actually getting submitted, hit in the face or anything. It's a wrestling conditioning session designed to make you quit, so you can convince yourself. So even that's adversity. It's just putting yourself in a position where you're like, no, I don't want to do this. Too late. You have to do it.
too late. You got to do it. You're in now. Yeah,
You're
I like that.
to a fight, and your ass is getting beat if you don't do it.
It's the same as turning up to class when you don't want to. Every time you turn up to class when you're not feeling it, you're tired from a big day at work, or you've got a big day of work ahead of you. That's reps of not quitting. That's reps of the discipline that you need to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. That's reps of the discipline that you need to be a well-skilled martial artist. That's reps of the discipline that you need to live a healthy life. And that's reps of not quitting, which is so super important. And that doesn't come without adversity. So for the parents out there, that's reps of making your kids go to training when they're tired. That's reps of dropping them off crying because they're trying to pull on your heartstrings. And then 5 minutes later, just like when you dropped them off to daycare when they were toddlers, they're fine. They're playing games. It's reps of not quitting. So as parents, it's our job to help them not quit. As coaches, it's our job to help them not quit. As a MMA fighter, it's your job constantly not quit. Don't quit on your meal plan. Don't quit on your strength and conditioning. Don't quit on your coach. Don't quit on your teammates. It's all real important and good stuff, and generally stuff that maybe isn't talked about on the mats enough, which is maybe why we're here. It's an extra mat chat. Hopefully people that are watching it can get some value from it. Maybe your coaches don't talk to you about these things at the gym, but I think it's important. And I talk about it a lot at the gym, and also trying to manage the time like, hey, don't be too preachy. Let's get some training done. Pick the right time. If you've only got like 45 minutes to an hour to train, you don't have 15 minutes to talk to your class. Like, you got to get the training done, and then you maybe get like 30 seconds to a minute at the end of the class to like hit some broken record type stuff. Because I'm sure some of my students are sick of me talking about consistency and not quitting. Is there any message to the people that you have now that might sign up and want to fight MMA? Because when people come to sign up MMA with me, I tell them, all right, your first goal is not to even think about MMA. Just train striking and grappling every day, and then let's go from there and see if you're still into it.
Yeah.
Because then the path from there will be some padded fights and jiu-jitsu tournaments, and that seems to scare a lot of people off. Which, I mean, I'm cool with that too. Like, if you're not interested in doing the work, we're not interested in you fighting 4-ounce gloves.
Yeah, look, I mean, I got asked at a recent XFC event, they were like, you never wanted to fight, Jim, and now you got all these fighters. And I'm like, well, my fighters make up like a single digit percentage of my members. So for me, I have great fighters, but I feel like that's just because they come through the system that we have in place. Now, no one in my gym ever gets the train for 6 months and we'll have a look at it. It's always train for 12 months and then we'll look at it. Come back and see me after 10. And that's basically like, remind me you've been here 12 months and we'll look at the option of you fighting. I have had guys fight in 8 or 9 months, but their commitment to training and PTs and everything on top of that has been far beyond turning up to class for 1 hour a night, 3 or 4 nights a week. It's been like 6 days a week, 2 hours a night, two PTs a week on top. Like these guys, 8 months is like 14 or 15 months worth of work. So it's like I
And that's
always
what they know about you, right? When you
sorry.
were fighting, something that people don't know about when you were fighting, you paid a gym membership, you worked full time, and you paid for private every week. Sometimes I paid 4 privates a week if I had
I
to fight.
paid up to $200 a week in gym memberships and private fees for a period of about, I'm going to say, 8 years. I worked a full-time job. At times, I had to pay my coaches out of my fight purses because I couldn't afford my PTs. Um, I basically was fighting for free at times because, well, we all fight for free because what it costs to get ready for a fight far outweighs what you make off it domestically, and that's
Yeah.
just the way it is. You can make good money if you sell tickets and you market yourself and you tell your mum to come to watch your fights every time, but it's like um, it's not a sport where you get to make money unless you're the 1% of the 1%, and then maybe you do. But for now, you don't. And so, I just think that the guys, you got to come in. We tell them they need to do 3 jiu-jitsu classes, 2 striking classes at a minimum. If you want to be a fighter, you have to wrestle Friday night and you have to turn up Saturday between 9 and 11. That's my only 2 conditions. You train 8 to 10 hours a week and you turn up Friday night and Saturday. And then you come see me after 10 months and I'll tell you if you can fight. Or where we're at. I give you a revision from that. So Friday night's wrestling. If you're in Australian MMA and you don't know how to wrestle, you shouldn't be fighting. And Saturday is no-gi jiu-jitsu followed by sparring, which is striking class targeted at fighters with fights coming up. So it's very specific. It's either 3 3s or 3 5s, and that's our opportunity to split it during the week. If you're not doing your 3 5s, you're doing drills. If you're not doing your 3 3s, you're doing drills. And the team gets together and helps each other out. So if you want to fight, you need to be at that. Now that's not saying you got to spar from day one. It's just that you need to be turning up to those days because, in my opinion, a Friday night will tell you whether or not people want to fight. Because do you want to drink piss at 6 o'clock, or do you want to turn up to wrestling class and be drinking piss by 7? You can still go out with your mates, you know what I mean? But it's only till 7 o'clock. So people don't come on a Friday night, they probably don't want to fight. Plus, you need to know how to wrestle because it's going to save your ass when you're hurt or when you can't. You don't want to do jiu-jitsu with someone because they're better on the ground. You've got to know how to wrestle. And then Saturdays, if you can't make time on a Saturday morning to train, then you shouldn't be fighting either. Because Monday to Thursday is easy, Friday and Saturday is not. And I don't mean that physically. I just mean that as far as commitment and discipline goes. So, yeah, I just think that that's important. Friday night and Saturdays, and a minimum 12 months training.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. There's Dan. He loves Friday night wrestling.
He does love Friday night wrestling. Everyone loves my Friday night wrestling.
Yeah, so we also have a Friday night wrestling class as well. I do love it. I think it's good. It's super fun. Again, I think even the way jiu-jitsu is going, like if you're not spending time working on your wrestling and your stand-up game, you're kind of like missing parts of the evolution of jiu-jitsu or the things that some of the greats were good at that you're not noticing. Like, I mean, everyone looked at Marcelo Garcia and were like, oh, look at the Marcelo team. Oh, look at the X guard. But he was actually great at wrestling up on a single leg as well. Like he might not have called it wrestling, but definitely looked like wrestling to me. It was something that he was really good at. So it's kind of fun and interesting at the same time. It is hard. So sometimes people do tend to move towards the hard things, and then there becomes maybe like a sense of entitlement too, where it's like, I don't think people understand sometimes how difficult it is to teach the whole gamut of wrestling and grappling if you only turn up to the classes that are convenient for you. oh, but I can't make Friday nights. Oh, but I can't do this. Oh, but I can't, and it's like, well, what do you expect me to do in 1 hour in the evening, or even an hour and a half? Or for people that are like, I just want to train MMA, and it's like, okay, you just want to train MMA, but it's going to be 3 hours a night, just for us to cover everything. It's going to be 3 hours.
Even people that turn up to an MMA class, like our MMA classes is split up into sort of 20-minute roughly increments where you got striking, you got grappling and wall wrestling. And we focus on different components. Now, if you don't do jiu-jitsu, it's going to suck in that mid-30, that mid-20 minutes. And if you don't do Friday night wrestling, then you're not going to, the wall work's going to be hard. So you kind of got to do a little bit of everything to be able to even understand what doing an MMA class is. So
100%.
at least in our programming anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And to be honest, I would still like to work towards one extra mat just to compress classes and have two things going on at the one time. So MMA guys could come in and do almost 3 hours of training at night time if they wanted to, just to kind of make it easier for them to get to different classes. I mean, we recently just changed our strength and conditioning program to privates only. So people are responsible for taking care of their own strength and conditioning. We'll do the programming, nutrition. You come in and do it yourself. So now we have morning fight classes or martial arts classes and night ones, so people can better manage where they fit in their cross training.
Yeah.
So that's been fun. So now we have 20 odd people rocking up between 6 and 8 to do grappling.
It's did we lose the? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. You got some guys doing work at your house.
Oh, that's the lawnmower man.
Yeah,
Yep.
you can go out and strangle him.
I got grams to develop. I don't have time to mow my lawns.
Okay, well let's quickly answer one of these questions. How do you think martial arts has changed to suit the modern enthusiast, and is this change a good thing? I definitely think, personally, I think mixed martial arts has taken the world by storm. I think it's made really usable functional martial arts trendy, which is cool. Anything that's usable and functional is trendy. I think the more popular it's gotten, the better quality of people that are taking it up and streamlining it towards best practice. So I think that's good. I can only see the positives. I can't see any negatives. I definitely don't think it's the death of tradition or anything like people want to call it. I think it's the death of poor practices. Often, I think respect is still found, especially in mixed martial arts gyms, because we're used to training with people from different backgrounds, whether it be boxing, Thai boxing, or jiu-jitsu. We're open to more thought, so less dogmatic thinking. So I think it's actually the opposite. I think you've got to check people's motivations that are negative about these things, to be honest. And that's how I feel about it. How do you feel about it?
Can you go all the way back to the comment?
Okay. I definitely can. How do you think martial arts has changed to suit the modern enthusiast, and is this change a good thing?
I think the sport has grown to a point where people realize that it's not just the diehards, the people that want to get in there and be broken in 10 years. I think the sport has grown so much that it's drawing the attention of people who like the idea of doing it and want to learn from a self-defense point of view and not just a competition point of view. So I think that the sport, the growth of the sport has attracted those kind of people. I think what those kind of people, the enthusiasts and the hobbyists, so to speak, do is they broaden the horizon or the thought process of the dinosaur coach that's like, it's my way and that's it. They broaden the thought process of that person to cater to different people. And I think that's allowed the sport to grow as well, because coaches are evolving because they realize they can make a living off martial arts if they just broaden their boundaries. It's one thing to have something that works and to stick with it, which I think is amazing, and we all do it at some point. I love a guillotine. I always stick with it. But if I don't, entertain the idea of learning, all the fancy moves and broadening my horizons, then the sport doesn't grow. So I feel like the growth of the sport has been affected positively by the enthusiasts and vice versa.
Yeah, and I like people's like different forms of coaching. Like when a coach comes along and he has different mannerisms, but a certain way of getting his point across on the mats, I like that. Like I'm like, oh, I could learn something from this guy. He's much gentler on the mat than me. Oh, I could learn something from this guy. He inverts a lot more than me. I might not want to invert all the time, but his style is different. So what can I learn about that rather than like being really negative about it? I try and stay open-minded about all the different styles and how people want to do it, because I think it's also would be rather egotistical of me to tell my students how their jiu-jitsu needs to be. Like, why can't there be a black belt who's great at lots of the sportsy stuff, and they might even be better at some of the sportsy stuff than me? Who am I to say someone can't just focus on like real normal grinding fundamentals, but be great at it for a self-defense point of view? I think it's my job to maybe point them in the right direction with a set of fundamentals where they can choose their own path themselves. I think self-defense is always an interesting one. Someone asked us about self-defense today. How do you manage the difference between someone wanting to train for competition and someone wanting to train for self-defense? And I definitely think if somebody's training for self-defense, that's great, but I think you should have a little bit of competitive mindset, because if you want to learn how to fight for your life and compete for your life, then you should probably learn how to compete. That kind of stress inoculation through competition for problem solving. It's like, okay, well, I can tell you best practice for me to do that. You can ignore it if you want, but it's my job to tell you best practice.
I think if you want to learn self-defense and competition jiu-jitsu, you should watch Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
Sounds easy because he's the best sports jiu-jitsu guy in the world. But if you understand his game of splitting the guard, get to half guard, get your body locked, get to dominant positions, being mount and take the back, then submit, that's what these guys do. So I think that if you want to watch, if Gordon Ryan's on his back, for the most part he wrestles up or sweeps and gets on top, and then they do their game. That's good for self-defense and sports jiu-jitsu. So I think that's perfect.
Yep. We might just finish it off with last question because it's live. This is an interesting one. So do you think if you're studying using instructionals that you'll be left behind in BJJ? I'm doing my best to create a habit off the mat and studying. So I definitely think for this person, I'm not sure who DS is, but for DS, I definitely think studying is a black belt habit. So creating black belt habits is great. Do I think you'll be left behind? No. If you turn up and you really maximize the use of your time at the gym, use your coach as a vehicle for the study that he's done and is going to do. You don't have to study instructionals if you don't want to. But do I think it's a black belt habit studying instructionals on film? I definitely do, but I don't think it's essential for the martial artist to study instructionals. But it can be a tool that you can use if you want to. Damien?
I would go as far as saying everyone should study to a degree. I think that it would potentially, for 90% of people, hinder your growth as a white belt, because there's so much to learn that your coach is teaching you the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu at white belt. Study instructionals when you get to blue belt. Before that, listen to your coach, turn up to every class you can, and learn the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu: grip fighting, positions, dominant positions, rear naked chokes, arm bars, guillotines, and study all the fancy shit like Barambolos once you get to blue belt. That's what
Yeah,
I'd say.
there's actually some really good fundamental ones out there. Maybe even asking your coach about their curriculum or structure of training, so you could study the same thing or same subject or tangent of subjects that you're training at the gym at the time. That would be very helpful. But that would require a discussion with your coach. If your coach can't answer you, I'd be a little bit worried about that if they don't know what position they're studying the next week or two. They should definitely have some kind of idea where they're at. Otherwise, there's just going to be huge holes in your team's games. But I think that's a good question to finish on, Damien. It was a good chat today. I would love to do this at least once a month, if not once a week. We'll try and get together. But it's always fun chatting with you, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for that. A marketing guy's going to kill me. I'm late.
Well, tell him it's my fault, and he'll have to come up and sort me out.
Say, don't you know who Coach Bone is? Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, see you, mate.
See ya.